Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob on location in Vancouver, Canada for Web Summit Vancouver, where we go, yes! We're excited because we know the one thing that makes businesses successful is complete and utter chaos. Now, before we get into the main topic of the show today, I do want to tell you I was talking to the founder of a cybersecurity company. I think they have 10 to 12 employees, and I was asking him on behalf of you how he valued a degree in cybersecurity, right? If you go out there and you get a cybersecurity degree, what does that mean to an actual cybersecurity company? And he stated unequivocally, it's better than nothing. If one person walks in with absolutely nothing and you walk in with a cybersecurity degree, it's better than nothing. It's not what he's actually looking for, but you know, he'll take what he can get, he supposes. Anyways, just wanted to bring that to you from the real world. I actually did an interview yesterday with the founder of a $2 billion cybersecurity company. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking because I had to come to that point in the conversation where it's like, you know, what do you think of cybersecurity degrees? And I always worry. I don't know what my interviewees are gonna say. And it's like, what if he blows me out of the water? And then it was funny. He literally stated he sees no value in a cybersecurity degree. Actually, a $2 billion cybersecurity company no longer actually sees the value in any college degree. As they're hiring people and they have their point system, college degrees get no points whatsoever. So anyways, I just thought you all might be interested in that bit of information. But anywho, the real topic of today is federal trade court strikes down Trump's reciprocal tariffs. Right? So you know these tariffs that the Trump administration has basically been putting on absolutely everybody. They're reciprocal tariffs based off of some kind of math that doesn't make a half an ounce worth of sense. And you know how many of us have said, regardless of how you feel about the tariffs, whether you're for the tariffs, whether you're anti the tariffs, we didn't think the president was allowed to do what he is doing. Well, it appears that the court has come back and said, in fact, he does not have the power to do what he is doing, right? He's basically used Emergency Powers Act in order to put these tariffs through, and the court has come back and said, well, that doesn't actually make a damn bit of sense. So yay, sanity has come back to the United States. But of course, you know that's not true, because that's not how Trump operates. Again, why I'm talking about this stuff is the main questions I get from you all. I get every Monday. I sit down and golly, I do anywhere between 4 to 6 meetings with you folks. And again, the question is job. How do I get a job, Eli? Again, to be clear, not how do I do the work. Not how do I solve problems. Not I like Apple devices and would like to develop for the ecosystem. No. People want tech jobs. They don't really care about tech work, which again is its own little story. Just one of those things to keep in mind. But anyways, jobs. And one of the points I'm trying to make to people right now is that we are just in an absolutely absurd economy. And so getting a job is just going to fundamentally be more difficult. You are going to have to work harder. Eli, why do I have to pretend like my boss is a human being, Eli? Eli, why do I have to do office politics? Eli, why do I have to care about the company's ROI? Eli, why can't I put apartheid in my auto signature? Because the economy is going sideways, boys and girls. 1% interest rates meant tech companies only cared about putting asses into seats to pretend like they were successful. If you can't use profit as a metric and you can't use revenue as a metric, you don't really have growth as a metric, you have to find some metric to give to the investors that they accept as a sign that you're growing. And so they literally put asses in seats. They literally paid employees to be employees to prove to investors that they were successful so they could get more money from the investors, so they could hire more employees, to prove how successful they were, to get more money, to hire employees. And yeah, that's not really how capitalism is supposed to work. This is not late stage capitalism. This is dumbass capitalism. This is just dumbass. This is what happens when you give people paint chips investment money, or who's eating paint chips, you give them investment money. So anyways, the big thing to understand is we're just in a very chaotic time. Again, even if you're in the tech world, the important thing to understand is all the hardware, all of the equipment is actual physical devices, right? So when Trump talks about putting 145% tariff on everything coming in from China, and a lot of this stuff comes in from China, what happens when your server goes from being $2,000 to $4,000 simply because of government taxes? That actually does affect you. You're deploying a lot of IoT devices. What happens when they double in cost? Again, if you've standardized on Apple products and Trump literally states he wants to put a 25% tariff on the nation of Apple. Fuck it, why not? He went after the penguins, why not go after the fruit, right? All of this stuff is significant. And so what's curious now is that the Federal Trade Court strikes down his tariffs. But the concerning thing that we have to have in the United States is we know how Trump operates, right? What do they say? What do they say about Trump, right? Think about intent, and then think about the ramifications of intent, right? When somebody attacks Trump, or when somebody stops Trump, nobody says, Trump will gather all of his allies together so that in a united front, we shall be able to push this thing forward, or whatever else, right? They don't say Trump will outsmart the opposition. Right, what do they say? If you hit Trump, Trump will hit you twice as hard. And if you didn't hit Trump, but somebody else hit Trump, and you're the closest person there, well, he's just gonna slug your ass twice as hard too. But think about that. If he feels like he's attacked, if he feels like he's hurt, he is going to hit somebody twice as hard, right? So we have these senile, idiotic economic policies that he's pushed through using these emergency powers that apparently he does not actually have. And so the curious thing to be thinking about is as we go forward, once the judges, once the judicial system has shut him down, has punched him, how is he going to punch them twice as hard? We've already heard this from Vance, right? Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who does not believe in the Constitution of the United States. Again, it's important to understand. President Trump does not know whether or not it's his duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States, right? President Trump does not believe he needs to follow habeas corpus, right? The Vice President, J.D. Vance, is literally stating that the judiciary is not elected, ergo they have no right to be a check or a balance on the executive. J.D. Vance does not believe in the Constitution of the United States. And so what happens when we have a chaotic, insane, senile old loser, right, that is violent in the presidency, that does not believe that there should be any check on his power, that's built into our fundamental system. And so when he is gut checked by the judiciary, does that mean we've returned to a time of normalcy? Or does this mean his senility will be ramped up to 500 and he doesn't give a shit how much of the United States burns because of it? And that's the environment we're in. Again, we're going to talk on other videos about him wanting to ban all Chinese students. Apparently like 277,000 Chinese students, and he wants them out. Again, Chinese students and possibly students that are part of the Chinese People's Party or whatever else it's called, right? Think about this. This is the insanity we're going into. And again, how do you run a business this way? How do you run a business when 1 minute you have no tariffs, the next minute tariffs are 145%, the next minute tariffs are 30%, the next minute, who the hell knows? Again, if you're importing out of Europe, 1 minute you have no tariffs, next minute you have 20% tariffs, then, right, he wakes up in the middle of the night with cold sweats, his senility is seeping into his brain. He's like, Europe. And all of a sudden he says 50%. We're going to put 50% tariffs on Europe in a week. And then he says, well, maybe not a week. Maybe we'll do it in a month. Again, if you're running a business, regardless of your worldview, regardless of whether you're globalist or isolationist, whether you believe in NATO or hate NATO, how do you run a business this way? Again, especially when you put orders in, right? So if I'm going to order $100,000 of goods, $1 million of goods, I put that order in now, I'm probably not going to get it for a couple of months. Do I have the risk tolerance to order $1 million of goods now and literally have no idea what it's going to cost me in 3 months? Anywho, from CNBC, the U.S. Court of International Trade on Wednesday blocked steep reciprocal tariffs unilaterally imposed by President Donald Trump on scores of countries in April to correct what he said were persistent trade imbalances. The Supreme Court could end up having the last say in the case. In its ruling, a 3-judge panel in the Court of International Trade said that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which Trump invoked to impose the tariffs, does not authorize a president to levy universal duties on imports. Hallelujah. Don't you wish it ended there? Quote, the worldwide and retaliatory tariff orders exceed any authority granted to the president by IEEPA to regulate importation by means of tariffs, the judges wrote, and separate specific tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China related to drug trafficking, quote, fail because they do not deal with the threats set forth in those orders, the panel wrote. The panel not only ordered a permanent halt to the tariffs at issue in the case, but it also barred any future modifications to them. So the idea here is they can't just go back, tweak it a little bit, and then try to put it back into force. The Trump administration was given 10 days to make the necessary changes to carry out the judge's orders. Several existing tariffs on specific products like aluminum and steel are not impacted by Wednesday's ruling because the president did not invoke IEEPA powers to justify their necessity. White House spokesperson Kush Desai, in a statement on the ruling, said, quote, foreign countries' non-reciprocal treatment of the United States has fueled America's historic and persistent trade deficits. Quote, these deficits have created a national emergency that has decimated American communities, left our workers behind, and weakened our defense industrial base. Facts that the court did not dispute. Quote, it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. And so this is going to be the interesting thing that's going to start coming out of the Trump administration is how dare you say no? A rapist never accepts no, right? He demands, ergo you will get on your knees and grovel. And so, there we go. We have one court that is saying that the tariffs are illegal. Unfortunately, as of right this second, Trump's tariffs have been reinstated by an appeals court until Trump can go through the appeals process, because that sounds a lot more like 2025. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be what it's going to be to see what happens with these tariffs. Again, the amount of insanity that Trump is driving through our economy, I am wondering when the breaking point will hit. Again, when I talk about this, it's not the normal politics stuff. It's just the basic business of businesses. Companies have to buy products. Companies sign long-term contracts. Companies have to forecast out 1 month, 6 months, years even. And in this complete insanity that Trump has unleashed, how do you do that? Again, even within his tariff policy, even recently, right? It's not like he just came in, he added all these tariffs, and then that's that. Again, 1 minute tariffs is one thing, then the next is not. Again, the whole thing with Europe, right? 1 minute tariffs are 20%, and then he says they're going to 50%, no negotiation, that is the deal. It'll happen in a week, 1 week, 1 week. And then he's like, well, maybe we'll actually do it in a month. But again, how do you plan for that as a business? And now as we see the courts, right? The courts are trying to rein him in. Now, again, another president might sit back, rethink what he should do, reanalyze the situation, come up with another plan. But as we see of the Trump administration, again, if you punch them, right, they will punch you twice as hard. So this is going to go through the court system, and then it'll be curious to see what happens. Will the Trump administration abide by the Constitution? Will the President of the United States uphold the Constitution, or will he be a traitor to our country? Right? That's going to be the question. And if he becomes a traitor to this country, what is going to happen the day after that? Right? You have the Republicans pissing all over themselves to pretending to be good little alpha dogs, right? Good little poodles. Give them a sausage and tell them they're the best little dogs in the entire world. They're not doing their damn jobs. Again, the Democrat, God knows what's happening with the Democrats. Oh. So anyways. So you have one branch of government that's lost its damn mind. You have one branch of government that's actually acting insane, and then you have another branch of government that's just a whole bunch of puppy dogs pissing all over themselves and stealing each other's bones. What does that do for the economy? And again, on top of everything else, you hear that where they want to chuck out the Chinese students because it was a southern border. I just like to point this out. Americans had a problem with the southern border. We have this border, and it's in the south. And we're having like a lot of people come over across the southern border. And somebody really needed to do something about the southern border. And even a stupid idea about the southern border is better than no idea about a southern border. So, a border wall is probably not a great idea, but it's kind of like better than nothing. Ergo, fine, okay, you want to do a border wall. Well, it's better than nothing. But you notice how this is all about like the southern border? Have I told you about the southern border before? Yeah, really concerned about that southern border. Have no idea what the fuck this has to do with international exchange students. But anyways, yeah, he wants to check out like 277,000 foreign exchange students. And again, when you think about the economy, and you think about this, right? So you have the insanity of the tariffs. What do you do here? And then again, if you check out 277,000 people, that's 277,000 people that were paying, somebody was paying their tuition. Might have been coming from the government, might have been coming from them, might have been coming from scholarships. That was 277,000 international tuition rates worth of money going into our system that Trump wants to be gone. That's 277,000 people that needed a bed to put their head in. That's 277,000 people that were buying food. That was 277,000 people that were parts of their local economy. And he wants to rip them out. Either they get ripped out or they go away like the good China boys and girls are supposed to. And again, you start thinking about that on a wider economic scale. And again, like I say, you think about that with universities. Like, oh yeah, send those China people home. But think about it, like Harvard. Harvard had 30%, somewhere is like 28 to 31%. Who the hell knows the actual number? But somewhere around there are foreign exchange students, international students. Okay, so you send all of them home. Right, they're freeloaders. They're freeloaders, Eli. They shouldn't get any of our strong education. Yeah, but that's a third of the student base that leaves. If you get rid of a third of the student base, that means you basically have to get rid of a third of the professors, which also basically means you need a third less facilities, which basically means a third less of everything that goes along with that. So not only are you getting rid of those foreign exchange students, but you're also quite literally destroying our own academic institutions. Again, Trump, the president that's really fucking good at going bankrupt, right? Ford, the largest manufacturer in the United States, is having a heart attack because, again, when you put together an F-150, there's a whole bunch of parts. whatever you do, a lot of those parts are going to be coming from other places. Literally, Ford is having conniptions over the tariffs. Trump's tariffs are damaging the largest manufacturer in the United States. Again, Trump is going after NVIDIA. Trump is going after Apple. The most valuable companies in the United States, Trump is going after. He's going after Harvard. He's going after, again, he's trying to revoke their ability to take any international students. It would basically kneecap them overnight. A third of their students go the hell away. And so even if they're able to survive, that is a hell of a disruption right there. Again, one of the leading academic institutions in the world, he's trying to destroy. He's trying to destroy our manufacturing capacity. He's trying to destroy our economic capacity. He's trying to destroy our academic capacity. And at the exact same time, he's pretending like he's winning. So yeah, how do you get a job in this particular environment? That's a curious question, right? 61,000 technology jobs have already gone away in 2025. Under Trump's economy, 61,000 tech jobs are already gone, and we haven't even started to see whatever happens. And again, this is why I talk about there's a difference between jobs and work. There's a difference between jobs and solving problems, right? If you look at doing the work, you look at solving the problems, you'll almost always be able to find something that'll get you paid. Maybe you're fixing some people's computers, maybe you're building a website, maybe you're trying to add some AI to a web app that somebody else has created. You go out there, you find problems, you figure out whether or not you can solve them. You say, hey, I can solve that problem for this amount of money. And you may not have a job, but $100 here, $500 there, $1,000 there. All of a sudden, you've replicated a salary. But again, if all you care about is a job, you're either employed or you are not employed. Right? If you go out there and you're looking for work and you're getting paid off of different things, one month you might make $500, the next month you might make $8,000, the next month you may make $2,000, right? You're not unemployed nor fully employed. You're able to bring something in. If you're hyper focused on just that employment, when the job goes away, the job goes away. So, anyways, there you go. How y'all doing? What you gotta do? I mean, you just gotta go with full. Empires come, empires go. It just happens to be this time period is when my particular empire is going to die. Again, it's funny as a Gen Xer, we were told it was the end of history. We were told all the important work had been done. All of the exciting things in history had been accomplished. Gen Xers were just going to ride out our lives basically on the work, on what all other previous generations have done. And that was before the dot-com boom, the dot-com bust, the longest war in American history, the Great Recession, COVID, and now the death of our empire. Wow, it's amazing how exciting our uninteresting, unexciting lives have turned out to be. So anyways, what do you think about all this? What do you think about this insanity? Put your thoughts down below. And with that, see y'all later.